Our beast. I'm with Marty again today. I've come to meet him in the park in Wednesbury, in Brunswick Park, all within the law. Well, not even the law, the guidelines, regulations, or whatever they want to use. And Marty's got a few words to say again. Before he does, I'll quickly get something off my chest, what we've just been talking about. There's an interactive map that the government's put out, and you put your postcode in, and it tells you how many ingrowing toenail deaths are in that postcode. It shows you like little green blobs, and it doesn't explain anything more than that. It doesn't give ages or comorbidities or whether they just tested positive or anything like that at all. Well, there's two people, without going into detail, in my mum and dad's street. My mum and dad moved in May 1969, and I grew up with these people. And you had a lady over the road. She'd been in and out of hospital for 5 years. We know the family very well. She'd been in hospital before that because she was frail, and she died in the summer because she was in her 90s and very, very frail and poorly. Her son, Adrian, said they put her down as a ingrowing toenail death. The same with a chap down the road. He's a widower a number of years ago, and he was in his late 70s, and he'd given up on life pretty much, and he decided to drink himself to death. So you can imagine the physical state that he was in. My dad knew his son quite well, because my dad was always up and down the street, and his son said exactly the same thing. They've put it down on the death certificate, although he may well have tested positive. He got no symptoms. He was just an old frail bloke who gave up on life, was poorly and drank himself to death. But again, I've looked at that map, and that blob's there on my mum and dad's street, which is, again, if you didn't know any better, that would have put the fear into you, wouldn't it? Whoa, there's one round the corner. So I'll just hand you over to Marty, and that's all I really need to say for today. Marty, over to you.
Okay, well, greetings, and I trust that, wish you all a blessed and a happy New Year. We truly need it. And I just want to share a few thoughts that I've been thinking on. And I remember when I was a young man in the early 80s, I went to a particular church where there was an American missionary, a nice guy called Johnny Washington, and he was from Chicago, Illinois, and he was a very jovial, big-hearted man, and I used to love having meals with him. He'd do some marvellous food, and I remember the soft drinks that we'd have would be Kool-Aid, and it was like an American drink, a sachet that you would add water to, and they came in different flavours, and the orange one was one that he was using predominantly. Very nice drink. Well, the thing I wanted to share was, in the year 1978, there was a very sad and tragic true incident that happened, and it led to the death of 909 people. Over 300 of them were children, and I'm talking about the Jim Jones cult of the People's Temple. He was a very flamboyant speaker. He attracted people, but his brand of Christianity was really a type of communism. And they moved around the United States, ended up in San Francisco, and then he moved the whole cult to Guyana, to Jonestown, and they lived in like a big commune area. They owned the land, and when you have people living together, it produces, it's not the best, should we say, because it can produce all manner of peculiarities, paranoias, and people can dwell, very small incidents can become mountainous and out of all proportion. Jim Jones exercised mind control over these people, and they yielded many areas of their life to his way of living, thinking and behaving. They used to have drills. The loudspeakers would go and they would queue up to take glasses of Kool-Aid. And why they did this is anybody's guess, whether he wanted them to show their allegiance to him, their commitment to his cause. Well, they would do this as irregular intervals, taking the Kool-Aid. And then there came a time when they were under investigation by the United States government, and a congressman called, his surname was Ryan, with some reporters came from the United States to investigate certain things that were going on. They did their investigation, and a number of his followers wanted to go back with Congressman Ryan and the reporters to back to the United States. When they got to the airport, they were opened fire on by some of Jim Jones' henchmen with guns, and Congressman Ryan was killed. Numerous reporters were killed. Anyway, back at the compound, the real suicide drill was taking place. People were queuing up, only this time the Kool-Aid had cyanide in it. And those that didn't want the Kool-Aid, who were under distress and crying, again, there were gunmen forcing them to have the Kool-Aid. The end result, as I said previously, was the tragic, sad reality that over 909 people, including Jim Jones, were dead. Now, this is a horrific story, and we think, can this type of thing happen again? Unless people learn lessons, it can. And in view of the ingrown toenails and the rollout for the anything is literally possible for this new year. Now, I take a number of lessons to learn from this incident. Is firstly, the people lacked discernment. They were overcome by his personality, and they submitted their wills to him, and they didn't discern. They thought this man had their best intentions at heart. They would have defended him in an argument against their way of life, what they were doing. They lacked discernment. Equally, it was a misguided trust. They put their trust in someone who basically was evil. And also the brainwashing, the mind control had done its work. And as we look at what we're faced with, literally anything is possible. So, just some thoughts on that. Kool-Aid, anybody?
Thanks, Marty. Yeah, very, very relevant.
Yeah.
Very relevant. And it's, you use that word discernment, and that's a word, I've obviously heard it before, but I'd heard it, you use it a few times, and I've heard it a lot more since. I'm picking up on that, so that's something that's made me stop and think about this discernment, whether people can actually figure things out for themselves, or whether they blindly go along. And as far as Jones's henchmen, you can see it with your self-appointed "where's your mask" types, can't you? It's the same philosophy that they do. So we'll leave it there then. So what do we say, Marty?
God bless.
God bless.
God bless.
God bless.